Welcome to the Dawgs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another live edition of the Dawgs Podcast, coming to you in what is our second week of off-season football. It's been a long, dark 2 weeks. I just wake up every day. It's like the rain cloud is just following me around. I'm holding an umbrella, but it collapses and all the rain falls on my head. It's just a very dreary time right now in my life with no football.
I saw somebody on Twitter, somebody said they've recorded every Browns game and now they play one Browns game every Sunday. And they tell the wife, hey, I can't go shopping or anything today because Browns are on.
Well, that's well played. That's strategic.
That wife, that wife is not very much. She's not in the know.
Not in the know.
It's like Justin, when the new Xboxes came out, Justin did not have an Xbox. Okay, this is a fun story to start the episode. And Justin had been talking to somebody. He was just going to get an Xbox One, I believe, he was just going to get a 360. He didn't have an Xbox One, and he just wanted to get a 360 because he was a PlayStation guy forever. Yes. And then he started, and so he was talking to a guy on like Craigslist or something, and he went to go buy it. And instead of going there to buy it, he stopped at Walmart and bought an Xbox One X. I'm pretty sure
the best thing
in a couple games, and just so his wife thought he left to go buy a $50 Xbox 360, and instead he stopped and spent $600 on the new Xbox. Sarah was literally no idea.
I told her, I was like,
no idea.
The disc tray doesn't work. He only wants $40 for it.
She's just like, oh, look at that Xbox. It looks pretty new. And he's like, oh, you kept real good care of it.
Yeah, kept the bag and the plastic and everything.
I'm like, my wife would have known instantly. She'd have been like, get your ass back to the store. So that was just a little fun story into our lives. Hopefully Sarah's not watching. It's out of the statute of limitations. That was a while ago.
I think that was pre-marriage.
Yeah.
So, you're good now.
That was a long time ago.
Kids, yeah.
So
stuck.
But we're gonna try to get you guys through the next few months or 9 months or however long it is.
I'm going to try to get you an Xbox One X for $40.
So
let's go.
We appreciate you guys being here. Remember, if you want to get your intros or voicemails on the show, head to thedawgspodcast.com, tap leave voicemail in the drop-down menu. You can also find the merch store in the same location. Today, we're going to talk about Brandon Aiyuk is a possible trade target for the Browns, what that would look like salary cap wise, who on the Browns is a possible candidate for restructure or possibly being cut to make room for trading for a guy like Aiyuk, and probably most likely having to extend him if we trade for him. We don't want to trade and then be a one-year rental. We're also going to get into then the Mike Tannenbaum stuff about saying the Browns should trade for Daniel Jones and trade. We're going to get into it. It was quite arguably the dumbest thing I've ever heard anybody say on TV or bad. Online it's
in real life.
And people say really dumb things.
Yes.
They do.
So we're going to get into that a little bit, kind of give you guys our opinions. So we got a fun episode lined up, I think. We appreciate you guys being here. While we're letting the chat fill up, hopefully it does. Remember, you can find us on all the socials, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and which one did I miss? TikTok. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. You don't miss any of the new content that we're putting out, so make sure you have the notification bell tapped. If you prefer to just listen to the show driving to work or something, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, and Google. Lastly, if you're looking for more Dawgs content, head to jointhedawgs.com, become an official Dog Pack member on the Patreon page. Extra episode every week. We just got done recording it. It's always a good time. It's a little bit of just anything, which we might kind of blend into these regular episodes throughout the off season. So we'll give you guys a little bit of a taste. If you guys like that nibble and you want the whole thing, you don't want just the crumbs, jump into the Dog Pack, become a Dog Pack member. You get to play fantasy football with us. And the highlight, you get access to that private Discord with people from all over the world on it. Everybody's gotten real close in there. It's like a good Browns backer group online that you have access to 24/7 when you want to talk about anything from football. I think somebody in there just started up a fantasy racing league.
Yeah, NASCAR.
Really?
I was going to get in on it, but then I forgot.
Unprovoked by us. The thing is, it's like it's taken on a life of its own.
Yeah. It's like AI.
Yeah, that's what you know what I mean. Somebody was in like, hey, I started a fantasy NASCAR racing league. Does anybody want to get in it? And I was like, No, but it's good for you guys who want to be in it. So yeah, it's a good time. Everybody in there, it's real cool. It's real laid back. Everybody has fun. So jointhedawgs.com, become an official Dog Pack member. So, Brandon Aiyuk, potential trade target. I know Josh has a ton of numbers. I guess before we get into it, I thought Josh posted a really good poll question here at the beginning, and it said, who would you be most willing to lose to make room for Aiyuk? I guess let's just start.
Say what's going on, right? Or are you going to ask us first?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
what were the options, first of all? Read it out for everybody.
So it's Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, Greg Newsome, and Wyatt Teller. And I just voted, and so I got to see the percentages, and I was very surprised by the results currently.
Okay, Justin.
Am I saying who I voted for? Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So for me, I love Nick Chubb, so I'm not ready. I know that there's a lot of contract stuff there, so I'm not ready to part ways with Nick Chubb. I think Amari Cooper, you can't get rid of him right now because he's legitimately our only real wide receiver threat. So it came down to Wyatt Teller, who I love, and JOK, who I also think is awesome.
No, Newsome.
Oh, Newsome. Well, okay, so it came down to Newsome, and it came down to Wyatt Teller for me. And I went with the guy who I misnamed, I guess, apparently. So I went with Newsome. I like Newsome. I just, for me, that was the guy. I guess and it comes down to like depth. I'd rather just keep all of them. You know what I mean? But I was just like, well, I guess if we have to do that deal, I don't know how much offensive line depth we have right now. And then, I was like, I guess maybe some young guys can step up. In the secondary.
Yeah, so my vote on that poll was Greg Newsome as well. I've got a whole section on my notes about like trade and my proposed trade to get Aiyuk, and it involves Newsome. So I'll explain that when I get to it. But what did you say, Blake?
So I think using Newsome as a piece makes sense. But in terms of who I'd be willing to give up, this is going to break a lot of hearts, including my own. It's Wyatt Teller.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's not even really close.
Okay.
Because, and I love Wyatt Teller, and he's very, very good. I understand that, but it's way easier to replace a guard than it is a first-round draft pick in the secondary. We just saw the Chiefs win a Super Bowl because their two corners had games of their lives.
This is a good point.
And I heard an interview with Spagnuolo who said Brock Purdy is very good. We had to stop playing zone and go to more. We had to adjust to what he was doing because he was picking us apart in the zone, and we had to put it on our corners. And luckily, our corners played the games of their lives, and that's how we were able to limit their offense and go win the Super Bowl. You can't get rid of secondary pieces. We were just playing undrafted free agents by the end of the year. You get rid of a first round draft pick, and you know what I mean? Like you said, you don't know what our depth is like at guard. I feel like it's way easier to find a serviceable guard than it is to find a high level corner.
Wyatt Teller was the question mark this season. He started for the Browns after we traded for him. It was like, who's going to play that right guard spot before he ever took over?
Yes.
So you never know what you're going to find there, and I agree with you on that. The thing with Newsome, just a spoiler a little bit on the future talk here, but the Browns do have to make a decision here soon on whether or not they're picking up his fifth-year option. And when they do pick up his fifth-year option, any non-guaranteed base salary for 2024 becomes fully guaranteed, and that 2025 fifth-year option, which I think I'll have to look it up. I thought it was like $14 million maybe. It becomes fully guaranteed. I'll look that up real quick.
Gage says we already have two stud outside corners, and Mitch played very well. Two's not enough, man. Two's not enough, especially when one of them misses 4 games a year. 2 is not enough. You got to have 5.
Yeah.
You got to have 4 to 5 corners on your team that you might have 2 that are very, very good, but there can't be a huge drop off from your
How'd we
from
feel
your first
about
to
Mike
your second.
Ford covering legitimate starting wide receivers?
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Yeah, and go and peep the Browns schedule next year.
Yeah, we got a lot of good teams coming in.
Yeah, so two's not enough. I don't want to be one cornerback injury away from being a fucking sieve on the defensive back end because we can't cover anybody.
Well, that'll be an interesting topic once we get to that cornerback stuff. You want to go through Brandon Aiyuk real quick for everybody who's not as familiar. So Brandon Aiyuk, wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, 25 years old. He's about to turn 26, though, next month, but he is going into his 5th year. He's on his 5th year option with the 49ers. He's slated to make $14 million, fully guaranteed, since it's a 5th year option here in 24. So the 49ers could franchise tag him, and that would cost them roughly $22 million. They enter the offseason with just about $500,000 in cap space, so they've got a lot of work to do with their cap situation as well. And they've got Christian McCaffrey at running back. He's the number 1 overall paid running back, $16 million a year. He's slated to make $14 million against their cap with an $8.5 million dead cap this year. And then they've got Deebo Samuel, their other wide receiver, is the 7th highest paid wide receiver in the league, $24 million a year. He's going to make 28, or he's going to be 28.6 against the cap this year. He's got a $26.5 million dead cap. So Deebo's not going anywhere. And then they got George Kittle on the offense as well. He's the 3rd highest paid tight end, $15 million a year. He's going to be a $22 million cap hit with a $19 million dead cap in 24. So they cannot afford, as far as I can tell, looking at their situation, they can't really afford to pay a 4th skill player that same level of money. And what I was reading is he's their top wide receiver. So he's going to want the same or probably more per year than what Deebo's making. So they've got him projected at around probably a $25 million per year average whenever he signs an extension or his next contract. So I just feel like you can't really do that as the 49ers. Now, what's interesting is they finished dead last in the NFL in pass attempts. So I don't know if you can even justify paying 2 top 10 wide receiver salaries, a top 3 tight end salary, and a top number 1 running back salary when you're not throwing the ball. You're throwing the ball less than any other team in the league.
I mean, if you get to the Super Bowl, you can.
Well, they didn't win it, though.
That's fair.
But anyway, Brandon Aiyuk, based on that low pass volume, he only averaged 6.5 targets per game. So that's crazy if you think about 6.5 targets a game. He caught 75 passes for 1,342 yards, 7 touchdowns. He was the 7th highest receiving yards in 2023. He did that, like I said, on the 32nd ranked team in pass attempts. He had the 4th highest yards per route run at 3.01. He was graded as PFF's 2nd highest wide receiver in 23 behind Tyreek Hill. He got voted as a 2nd team All-Pro this season. We know how hard it is to make an All-Pro. And, he was a former 1st-round pick in 2020. If you remember it all, his career started out bumpy. He was kind of in Shanahan's doghouse a couple times, but he's progressively gotten better and better every season he's been in the league. He now has 2 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He made that All-Pro, like I just mentioned. Justin was talking about this earlier, one of the best route runners in the NFL, and he's actually a really, really good run blocker.
Yep.
So he's actually one of my all-around favorite wide receivers in the league. I think the Browns could actually pull this off if they manage the cap situation with the team. But I'm a big fan of Brandon Aiyuk. And I was actually looking at him as like, man, that would be awesome if we were able to, because I was kind of looking around, during the weeks between the wild card loss and the Super Bowl thinking, well, what could the Browns do this season? Like an Amari Cooper thing where, they got a wide receiver on a team who they can't really afford to pay him anymore. They're looking to maybe compensate something for him. And Aiyuk came to mind. Then I started seeing people actually posting about it. There was an article written on it from the 49ers side, like why he's probably going to get moved. There was an article from the Browns side, like why they could actually use him. So I don't know. I think it's a relevant possibility.
I mean, he's really good. He's really, really good. Like you said, crazy good route runner, super young. We were talking, he's, I think, 25 right now, going to be 26.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. I mean, he's great. Once he gets out in space, he always seems to separate really well. Mm-hmm. And then once he's in space, he's very good. I do think that you'd probably have to give up a lot to get him, though. I mean,
would you though?
I think he's a former 1st-round pick.
So is Amari Cooper.
That's true. But I mean,
now he's younger.
Yeah, I was gonna say Amari Cooper was.
But if the whole league knows they can't sign him, you know what I mean? If the whole league knows, it's going to drive down his price.
True.
Well, what do we think his price is? Because that's the crazy thing. Josh got some. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, if you're out there in the chat, you're watching this right now, go ahead and drop it in the chat. What do you guys think if the Browns move for Brandon Aiyuk? What would be a reasonable trade for you guys to do? I put in here, if it were me, I would start, and I mentioned Greg Newsome. I'd say, what about Greg Newsome in this year's 2nd-round pick? We're getting a legit wide receiver. I think he's a wide receiver 1. I think he'd be the wide receiver 1 in Cleveland for the next 5 years.
The thing too is you look for that like replacement of, I guess last year we were like, we got to find a guy that can come in and like be the new number 1 once we can't afford Amari Cooper anymore, right? This could be one of those guys. I mean, but so I'm not good with the number part of it. So you know what I mean? When I think about like the salary cap and stuff like that, I'm like, how do we fit in a $22-23 million a year player? But like, as far as like, if you look at the free agents, like, so if T Higgins is off and like Mike Evans is off, you can't get any of those guys. Would you rather have this guy or Calvin Ridley? I think you would want this dude. You know what I mean? I just, the money part to me is crazy because I'm like, Jesus, how do we make it all work?
Which we'll get into some of that here in a minute, but
I agree in terms of fit. He played in a system that is similar to what, you know, what we do, especially like the run blocking thing.
yeah.
So I think he would be a better fit for sure. Can the Browns, like, you're going to get into the numbers here, can we afford to be paying 2 wide receivers $20+ million? Right. Like that. And if we do, and I know Andrew Berry's a cap wizard, we're definitely letting some people go.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I've got the whole list of like restructures and stuff, and Amari Cooper's on that list where he could be restructured, extended, bring down his cap hit. You know, maybe we have him for another year or 2, but then he's gone, and Aiyuk then becomes that highest, you know, then he's the top dog in terms of salary cap allocation to the wide receiver position for the Browns.
I'll say this. I think he's good. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. We think he can be wide receiver 1, but how much right now is he Steelers Juju Smith-Schuster?
There's always that risk.
For sure.
There's always that risk.
Like, I don't know if I wanted to trade up high-level draft picks or, I mean, Newsome was a first-round draft pick and in an important position for a guy that we don't know for sure is an elite level number 1 wide receiver.
The difference for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when Juju was on the Steelers, how many games did he actually play where Antonio Brown wasn't on the field, where he was like injured or something? Because I know that Brandon Aiyuk has played without Debo, without Kittle, and
they usually and they lose.
Well, you can't put everything on just one guy, but I'm saying
I'd be interested to see what his numbers are though when he's the number 1 when like Debo's not out there.
We could pull that. Yeah.
Because I mean, and I like Debo right now. I mean, they got Debo, George Kittle, CMC. I mean, if all those guys are on the field, Aiyuk is probably the defense's like 4th guy they're paying attention to.
True, but if he was here, then there'd be, you know, Amari, David.
I mean, those guys. I see what you're saying, but
I know they're not. Well, I don't know. Amari Cooper balled out this year.
If you're the Niners though, I feel like you were in a tough spot with Debo because I was just looking at, he's so versatile, but he had 225 rushing yards and he only had 892 receiving yards. So he's just over a shade over 1,000 all-purpose yards, and he had I think 12 touchdowns, which is a decent amount of touchdowns.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But you sank up. He's the 7th paid highest wide receiver.
Yeah.
For under 900 yards. I mean, 892 yards is Donovan Peoples-Jones 2 years ago.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Now, Donovan Peoples-Jones didn't have 200 yards rushing, but 200, I mean, that's not that. It's not like he didn't put up 600 yards rushing and 900, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like these top wide, I mean, Tyreek's a 1,800 yard receiver guy, plus maybe, you know, 100 rushing yards or 50. To be like that high, but you couldn't let him go either. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't let him walk.
Right.
So I feel like they were in a tough spot there because now you got so much money sunk into him. We're talking about they might be giving up the guy who led their team in receiving yards. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So for a guy who had under 900.
The thing too for me is like, so over the last couple, don't get me wrong, Debo, I feel like Debo is pretty special. You know what I mean? Like I know the numbers are kind of down and everything. He's a pretty special player, but my thing with Debo is he's had trouble staying on the field. This kid, I want to say, has played 16, 17 games the last 2 seasons. Like not a lot of injuries, like pretty reliable. You know what I mean? And that's something that's another great asset for a young kid. You know, it's
definitely another selling point.
Right.
But just real quick, I'll just say why I picked Newsome essentially because I was just looking at the 49ers roster, and if anybody knows more about the 49ers team, please let me know because I'm by no means a 49ers expert. But it looks like they've only got the only cornerbacks on the roster for this upcoming season that appear to be really any good. Charvarius Ward and Isaiah Oliver. They're both 28 years old. Ward, it looks like, is $18 million against the cap, and then Oliver's just 3.8. So I feel like they could use another, like a young, high-level cornerback. Newsome kind of fits that bill for them. And Newsome is a question mark to me as far as what the Browns are going to do with his salary, like with his cap and stuff, because, what's he going to command? You know what I mean? As far as an extension goes, we've got Ward, who's paid super high. Emerson's on the roster, who we still got a couple years left on his rookie deal.
We got to think if he keeps playing like that, we
probably want to extend him.
He's going to be
who?
Martin Emerson. If he keeps playing super well.
So here it is. If the Browns pick up Newsome's fifth-year option, he's guaranteed $12.2 million in 2025, and then any base salary here in 24 that wasn't guaranteed becomes fully guaranteed. So you kind of run into a Jed Wills situation where, last year fifth year picked up his option. Now this year we're looking at
I just wouldn't pick up his option. Just make him play on the last year of his deal.
Could.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Well, because then you have to extend him next year or else he's gone.
So?
I'm just saying, if you're just going to let him walk.
I mean, I guess here's the thing. Is
it's not guaranteed that he walks next year. If he plays really well, pay him.
That's fine.
I'm just saying,
and I think he likes being in Cleveland. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think
I'm not trying to get rid of him. I'm just saying I was looking at the most plausible.
I'm just saying let the guy hit the market because I like him. It's giving DPJ where everybody thought he was going to price himself off of the Browns. And
I'm saying instead of letting him hit the market, if you can use him in a trade to bring in a guy that you know is going to help your offense, I would be willing to do it.
No, I would trade him, but I'm just saying in terms of like the money, if we let Greg Newsome hit the ARPU market right now, I don't think he's getting some huge contract somewhere.
That's fair. So you would let him hit the market and then
I think it's send him back cheap unless he goes off next year.
I think he fits our system really, really well, but I don't think he can go be a number one.
He got torched a lot.
Yeah, I don't think he could go.
You know what I mean? I like Greg Newsome. I think he's got like a dog mentality.
Absolutely.
And I think he fits in our system well, but I don't think if you let the guy hit the market, people are going to be lining up to just sign him to some huge contract. I think you could get him back. You could sign him back cheap. That's that unless he goes off next year. Off. I don't think he did enough this year to just. He's not getting some $30 million a year.
Well, I mean, after the playoff game, all I heard was Browns fans talking about trading him, getting rid of him. They didn't want him on the team, cutting him. So, I mean, I don't think it's that serious.
Just talking about the Brandon Aiyuk stuff. So Jack Duffin on X said that the two most obvious routes to bringing Brandon Aiyuk to Cleveland, number one, Amari Cooper is gone. Number two option would be Wyatt Teller and Nick Chubb are both gone. And I said, I don't know if I really agree about Cooper because I think the Browns, just because they haven't necessarily gotten it totally right, they definitely understand the value of the wide receiver position. I mean, they've used 3 straight years of third-round picks on wide receivers. All 3 had minimal production as rookies, kind of disappointing out the gate. And then a second-round pick for Elijah Moore, not exactly the result we were hoping for. The best move they did was going out and getting Amari Cooper to come in here and be that guy. So I don't know. I don't know if you make the move for Brandon Aiyuk if you're not also keeping Amari Cooper, because that's the whole idea. I think you want both of those guys.
If you have Amari Cooper, Aiyuk, and then Elijah Moore and the 3 and
then Elijah Moore,
true slot guy, that could be crazy, crazy good. And then you have Chief still out there, and then who knows what? I know Chubb eventually is coming back, but you got to think, man, offensively, that is a high power. And we're going to air the ball out. That's a good starting piece. But my goodness.
2 things. Joey Nichols, I don't know. Explain. I don't know what you mean by that in terms of to trade or we suck. I don't know.
Y'all don't have the ammo. We definitely have ammo.
Explain yourself. I'm just confused.
Yeah.
And then we'll get to your comment. And then 2, Brandon Aiyuk has 67 catches for 848 yards and 6 touchdowns in 13 games without Deebo Samuel in his career. So he's got good numbers when Deebo doesn't play.
Okay.
Now, I don't have, ESPN's next gen stats here. even if Debo doesn't play, he still has Jennings, CMC, and George Kittle running around. So it's, you know what I mean? It's not 100% like Juju. It's not like if AB was out and then Juju was the one because they didn't have anybody else. I mean, he's still got dudes everywhere. But no, I think he's good. I'm just playing devil's advocate. And do you throw a ton of money at a guy who you don't know if he can be the guy?
I think if you're trying to win, the thing is, I don't see any really other great options to hit a home run like this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? This isn't just like, well, let's just trade for a mid-level guy and see if he can become anything. Elijah Moore. That's kind of what we did last year. It's going all in, and if it doesn't work, that sucks. It doesn't work, but at least they tried. I'd much rather we live in that era now where the Browns try.
Yeah, no,
and I love that.
I'm not anti Brandon Aiyuk. I'm just
I understand what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know what I mean. If they trade for Brandon Aiyuk, I'm definitely gonna be pumped.
Yeah, well, but the expectation would be he better be that guy.
Yes,
like that's what you're doing because you're gonna have to give up a lot to get him, and then you're gonna have to pay him a lot to keep him.
You think you're getting Brandon Aiyuk for a second? LOL. Well, we got Amari Cooper for a fifth.
No, we said Greg Newsome and a second, and I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but I if they were like, we would do Newsome in your first next year, I'd say okay. Because what are you going to get with if receiver's your main focus? Okay, so we draft a first round receiver. There's no guarantee he becomes anything. There's no guarantee he does anything in year 1 or 2.
He's saying one. What do you think Brandon Aiyuk commands in terms of draft picks? This isn't Tyreek Hill.
What's he? I don't know what he's talking about.
I mean, like he's not. I mean, Tyreek Hill was what, 2 picks?
We would have thought that Amari Cooper would have gone for a lot more.
That's fair.
That's fair. And he was what, 27 when we got him? 26?
Yeah.
So,
well, it turns out Joey Nichols, you don't have any say in anything. I would have been curious to see your comments on videos talking about the Browns getting Amari Cooper for a fifth. He just had a career year, in case you were wondering. So, no, I think it'd be a good move for the Browns if they can pull it off. I'm curious to see how the numbers would work. Who were some of these restructure/cut candidates?
Yeah, so we'll dive into the contract conversation now. And I mean, so the Browns right now going into the offseason, we are $19.6 million under the cap. Over the cap, sorry.
Oh, boy.
So we are 19.6, almost $20 million in the hole. But by the time, if they do a bunch of these things, they could potentially free up and be at like 68 or more in available space. So number one, so these are the candidates that could be restructured and how much that they can free up according to overthecap.com. Deshaun Watson can be restructured, frees up $33.6 million. Amari Cooper can be restructured, frees up $12.5. Denzel Ward can be restructured, frees up $10.6. Jed Wills can be restructured, frees up $9.7. Joel Bitonio can be restructured. He's 4.3. And Wyatt Teller could be restructured for a savings of 3.4.
I wish I was really good at math.
And I'm sure there's some other guys too that are a little bit lower than that they might just rework just to free up. You know how you'll get the news that says, hey, they restructured these 3 guys, freed up an extra $3 million or something.
Mm-hmm. So. I wouldn't like Wyatt Teller. Was he a cut candidate?
He's not a cut candidate, but he's a trade candidate.
A trade candidate?
Let me see, because I like Over the Cap because it lets you play out all the different scenarios. So let me just see here. Wyatt Teller, if we cut him before June 1st, we cannot cut him. We would lose way too much money.
Okay.
So if we cut him after June 1st, we can free up 6.4. And if we can't trade him before we could trade. So 6.4, cut or trade after June 1st.
Okay.
We could free up 6.4, or we could restructure, like I said, and it's whatever. 3.
So really only if you restructured cost you $3 million. I just restructure and keep him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not my $3 million, but that's what I would do. Where I know we've talked about this some, but like, is Chubb a cut candidate?
Okay, well, do you want my cut candidate list?
Yeah.
I really only have 2 guys based on the numbers that are candidates to be cut, and it's Jordan Akins can be cut to save 2, and Nick Chubb can be cut to save $11.8 million.
That's a big $11.8 million. I think he's good. I mean, in order to keep him, they got to restructure him.
For sure. Absolutely.
So, and I know it's like semantics and just terminology, but you can't restructure Nick Chubb because of the way his deal, there's no money to move around into bonus or whatever, but they could extend him. So that's kind of where the thing with Nick Chubb comes in. You could extend him, and then essentially, like we talked about, he would be taking a pay cut for this year.
I mean,
but I don't even know if he's going to be, is he going to be ready week 1?
No.
If he starts on PUP, is that 6 weeks? Does he come back on a snap count? At what point is he 100% back?
So do we
mid-season,
or is it even this year at all?
I don't think he'll miss the whole year.
No, I'm saying 100%.
He got hurt week 2.
Yeah, but
I know.
mean,
but if they're saying though, I mean, if he starts on PUP, I'm just thinking timeline wise, if he's on a snap count, if he's,
I guess we need to figure out where he's at in terms of like when he's going to be back, because I mean, there's people coming back from ACLs, and I mean, Cam Akers came back like 8 months later.
Right.
You know what I mean? So do it like, if we're saying mid-season, we think it's going to take Nick Chubb 16 months.
We're
going to think it's going to take him twice as long as Cam Akers.
We'll see if the chat knows any recent updates.
I know. I listen to a lot of Browns Daily, and what's his name? Nate was saying he thinks not week 1. He'd be shocked if he's ready week 1.
The thing to remember too is, I mean, guys do tear their ACLs and make a recovery, but usually they're not 100% themselves. Like we saw Breece Hall this year, and he's 22 years old. It took him till the end of the season to really get back to his full strength. And the thing with Chubb is, when it happened, we all thought it was season ending.
Like it was career ending.
Career ending. That's what I meant. Like it was a much more devastating injury than some of these other guys. And if anybody can bounce back, we've said it's Nick Chubb. But
this is my thought on it. I can't see Nick Chubb like pounding the table and saying that he wants top dollar running back money. I think that he's deserving of it. I mean, what he's done in Cleveland has been nothing but spectacular. He's one of my favorite Browns player, if not my favorite Browns player of all time.
Yeah.
But to me, there's got to be some restructuring, and if that means take a risk on him down the road and you're extending him, I say you take that chance, because if anybody overcomes an injury like that, it is Nick Chubb. But I don't think that you can pay him. What's he going to get paid this year?
11, right?
Isn't that the cap hit? I thought he was 16.
His cap hit is 15.8,
What's
almost
his-
16, 15.8. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. I don't think you can pay him $15.8 million. Just go, hey, we'll see you when you get back healthy.
We'll see you when we see you. Yeah.
It's a tough situation, because like the Browns are trying to, you want to take care of your guys.
For sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And everybody wants to take care of Nick Chubb because of what he means to the team and to the city and the organization. But
it's a business also.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. It's a super, I don't envy Andrew Berry and Stefanski and these guys to make this decision, because it's also at a position that is widely known as like you don't pay for this position.
Correct. Right. Not valued as,
and this is why the Browns made the contract the way they did, to be in this position where they hold the leverage at this point in his career, where it's like, if we need to move on, we can. We have that option. And you heard Barry in the press conference. He said, we're going to do everything we can to work with Nick Chubb, but it did sound like there's going to have to be some compromising here, or else.
Can you imagine? I can't imagine though the shit storm in Cleveland if Nick Chubb is not a Cleveland Brown, and then like Deshaun doesn't play well or gets hurt again, and people are going to be like, we had to cut Nick Chubb. We had to cut everybody's favorite player because this guy's making X amount of dollars and he's hurt again, or he sucks, or you know what I mean? Like if we cut Nick Chubb, Deshaun, that's even more pressure on Deshaun. Because if we cut Nick Chubb and Deshaun isn't like a top 5 quarterback, it's going to be insufferable in Cleveland. Like he's not going to be able to show his face. It's going to be bad. So if he's got to hope Nick Chubb's willing to play ball a little bit, or he's got to really hope that he turns back the clock and it's 2020 Deshaun, because if not, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be super ugly.
With that being said, I mean, my gut says they'll work out
Me too.
a mini extension where he takes a pay cut. He's not near the cap hit he is, projected to be. So I think he'll be here. But you never know. You never know how these things are going to go. Like I think you said at one point on a previous episode, Blake, I mean, is he going to turn down guaranteed money to?
I think I said that on the after hours. Like,
okay. That's
I
what
think
it was.
as me as I guess I've never been a pro athlete. Some might guess competitive eater, but I'm not. But like if my job came to me and I worked on like a contract basis and I'm doing my work or whatever, and something happened and they were like, "Hey, we want you to keep doing this work, but for less money," I would say, no.
Even though you just got really hurt doing this job.
Yeah. Especially if I was like, this is my last, I'm not going to make lots of money after this. This is my last job. So no, I'm going to need all that money. Mm-hmm. Now I don't know Nick Chubb. I don't know what endorsements and stuff he has. Cause I mean, he's quiet. I would imagine
he does a lot.
I don't think, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know how much money he's got off the field.
I mean, we had to promote his cereal.
Yeah. So, like some of these guys, the on the field money doesn't matter. They make more off the field than they do on the field, for a lot of these main guys. Mm-hmm. But so like to me, if I'm Nick Chubb, I'm like, no, I'm not giving you, my money back. Mm-hmm. I need that money.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we can sit here and say, don't be selfish. Do what you can none of you guys would just voluntarily give up $10 million either.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's trying to not work for the rest of his life.
Well, and solidify his family's
the legacy.
Generations of his family.
It's such a touchy. I guess if you're a Cleveland fan, you have to hope he's not me. And he likes, I don't hate my job actually, but like if he likes his job in Cleveland more than I like my company, because I tell my company, you can afford it, you're gonna give me all my money. And
it also I think it goes to his plans as a player though. Like what does he want out of the rest of his career after this recovery? How does he feel like he can play another 5 years in the league? If he does, maybe he does take a pay cut for this year to do an extension, but to get money for more years. You know what I mean? What came up here?
He said I was a douchebag because I did just get LASIK eye surgery. Maybe you're a douchebag, Mike Burkharder or whatever your name is. I can't even read your name. No, I just like wearing these, man. I just, something I did.
The lights are kind of bright in here too. So.
After halfway through the season, we got on a win streak and it was just fun. I don't consider myself a douchebag, but if you feel like that, hey, talk your talk, brother.
You would be a douchebag for wearing sunglasses on a Browns sunglasses
and a Browns podcast.
And a Browns podcast in a Browns studio.
Yeah.
What are you for being a fuck in the YouTube comments?
Thanks, man.
I don't understand internet trolling.
Yeah.
It's not very good. Like they're not, you would think that if they're going to do it a lot, they'd get better at it. They'd be more talented with their trolling. They just regurgitate the same dumb things over and over.
I didn't get my feelings hurt, man. It's all good. Don't worry about it.
I think you've probably been called worse.
For sure. In real life. Not even on YouTube. It's all good, brother.
To my face.
To my face, yeah. Thanks, Jack. Appreciate you, bro.
Well, I guess if we're done talking about Nick Chubb, we can talk about people who say more stupid things.
Yes, sure.
Right?
Transition. Very nice.
Do we want to play the clip first?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So if you guys are watching this on YouTube after the live and this clip that I'm about to play from GetUp is not on here, it's because YouTube made us take it out because of copyright. YouTube's kind of stupid. I hate YouTube. But anyway, here we go.
I'm trading Deshaun Watson and a second-round pick to the New York Giants for Daniel Jones. And hear me out. If you're the Cleveland Browns, you have Dorian Thompson-Robinson, you have Joe Flacco, and now a 27-year-old Daniel Jones who has 1 year left of guaranteed money for $36 million and an enormous amount of flexibility moving forward. And if you're the Giants, you're getting Deshaun Watson, who's 29, who's making $46 million a year for the next 3 years and a second-round pick. And to me, you need a frontline difference-making quarterback. Because, Bart, right now, if you're the Giants, how in the world do you win the NFC when you have to beat San Francisco, Green Bay, Dallas, Philly, and Detroit?
With Daniel Jones, right.
Yeah, with Daniel Jones. So, to me, Deshaun Watson hasn't played well the last couple of years, but he has a high upside, and he's only 29 years old.
So
Who says no?
All right, hang on. Before you guys even go, you guys
Yes.
let me say something here.
Okay.
A 148 and 156. What do you think that is?
A 148 and a 156?
Yeah, what do you think those two numbers represent? That's Mike Tannenbaum's career as a GM.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So maybe this guy doesn't give advice.
Okay.
On
Maybe he's not a good trader.
Yeah, on personnel decisions
Yes.
for good football teams, because that was maybe the dumbest thing The Giants should trade for Deshaun because he's such a difference maker and they have to win right now. But we have to also give up the second round pick.
Right.
Because he's so bad, that's the only way we can get rid of him?
Yeah, wait, what?
Yeah.
That was literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
And then
anybody
it frees
say.
up all this money, but it doesn't really free up hardly any money because they damn near make almost the same amount
per year.
Right.
And then the thing that also is crazy about it, because I really thought this through and I was like, just tried to listen to his take on it. And he's like, man, the NFC is so tough. Green Bay, San Francisco. And I'm like, what about the AFC? What about the killers in the AFC? You got the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes.
That's
you got
a good
Buffalo,
point, man.
Josh Allen. Look at our division.
Yeah.
You think Daniel Jones can stay upright against Baltimore, against Pittsburgh? It's just
Get outta
crazy.
Well, and he started off saying something stupid where he's like, they have Dorian Thompson-Robinson. They have Joe Flacco. First of all, we do not have Joe Flacco.
No.
He is not under contract, you dipshit. And second of all, did you watch DTR this year? I'm sorry. That's not an argument in favor of getting Daniel Jones on the roster. Are you kidding me? Daniel Jones is terrible.
Daniel Jones can be successful in the East against Washington. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, Philly and Dallas are okay, but I mean, do we not think the AFC North is a better division than the AFC East?
His whole point that we could get out of Daniel Jones' contract after 1 year? Was that that? Is that because it just makes no sense?
And he made it sound like the Browns aren't trying to win right now.
Hey, bro, we're in this is it.
This is our window.
We are trying to win.
The time is now.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones makes $40 million a year.
Right.
That is just $40 million too much.
$40 million a year. So people will say Deshaun Watson has the worst contract in sports.
You know what? Another thing too.
Daniel Jones makes $40 million a year.
I could be way off on this, and this is just my personal opinion. Daniel Jones is a little athletic and can do some things. Daniel Jones kind of reminds me of a former quarterback that we had where everything had to be pretty damn good. You know what I mean? And even then, he's had one kind of okay year. It's not like
he just got lucky and had it in the contract year.
Yes.
Right.
And
put him in a bad spot.
And I know you're talking about Baker, but
you don't know that I'm talking about
Baker. I take Baker Mayfield over Daniel Jones any day
for
of the
sure.
week. At least I feel like there are times when Baker can put it all together and go out there and win a ball game here and there, but not Daniel Jones.
People will crap on the Browns and say that they screwed Baker. They made the hard decision that the Giants didn't make.
Right.
And
yes.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was very similar.
Yep.
And the Browns made the tough decision, which is when you want your people in charge to be able to do. You want them to be like, I know this is going to give us some heat, but I can take that heat because this is what I think is best for the team. And they moved on from Baker. And whether they were going to move on from whether Deshaun Watson was on the table or not, they were saying all this stuff in public. He was not coming back. Okay. They were moving on. And because they knew he wasn't worth $40 million a year. And the Giants didn't do that, and now they are up shit creek.
Yes. That is a great point because they were in the same situation as the Browns, and they copped out and said, we'll just pay this guy because we're too cheap to go out and get a better guy. We don't know what to do. We have shitty management. I don't know what their
paid
situation
him instead
was.
of Saquon.
Yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to you don't pay your running backs. But Daniel Jones, really? $40 million a year? Yeah, I love that. Deshaun Watson is not the worst contract in his sport.
Correct. So, and then you said something dumb if Aaron Goldhammer is pushing back on you. Okay, and I saw him. They had Tannenbaum on, and he was like, the Giants are trying to win right now, and he was like, we're trying to win right now. We have a better roster than the Giants do. We are in win now mode, and Tannenbaum's just fumbling over himself. And I'm like, if Goldhammer is telling you you're dumb, you went off the rails, stupid. Because Goldhammer is like, that dude that ate literal horse shit on TV. You know what I mean? So if that guy is telling you said something stupid, you messed up.
Well, and then he says it on ESPN, something stupid, and then he doubles down on it. It's like, at some point you just got to step back and say, man, I really shouldn't have said that.
They have production meetings. Whenever he came up with this in the production meetings at GetUp, you'd have to think like, so everybody was like, what the fuck did this guy just say?
Yeah.
Like
It's about the clicks, bro.
And that's what leads me
clicks.
to like, does anybody even watch ESPN and this stuff? Like GetUp, do
I used to like
do we
GetUp
take
a
this
lot
stuff
a couple
serious
years
anymore?
ago.
Oh, it's not serious anymore though. It's not
No.
a serious industry.
So there was a time in my life, especially like when I was younger and single and lived by myself and nobody else was, I would watch SportsCenter and then I would watch
Cold
the exact
pizza.
same SportsCenter.
Yeah.
And then I would watch the exact same, it was just on my TV and I just watched it
I did that as a kid, man. It
over
was-
and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I'd be honest, outside of a football game on Monday night or something, I don't remember the last time I turned on ESPN. Even during football season, and I know like the guy gets on my nerves. I watch The Herd a million times before I would turn on ESPN because Colin might annoy the crap out of me, but at least it's sports.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I like Dan Orlovsky. I still don't watch it. Ryan Clark he's about 50-50. It's bad. Yes, I don't remember the last time I watched it. And at one point, it was the only thing I watched. Back like the golden age when they had the This Is SportsCenter commercials and it had the ticker on the side.
Yeah.
So you knew what was coming up next. And the top 10 was coming up. And I'd just be watching just to get to the top 10. Not anymore, man.
Nope.
Not anymore.
What about Pat? You ever watch Pat? It's kind of fun,
I
man.
watch like more clips of Pat than
Yeah.
I actually just sit down and watch his show. I tell you, I think what really started like the downward trend for ESPN was when they went to both coasts. But they had all their talent in one building. I used to watch Stan and Neil at night.
Yeah.
And then they went out West Coast and they didn't start coming on till, I was already going to bed. And those were the funniest guys. They got rid of, I don't think Kenny Mayne's there anymore. Maybe he is. I can't remember, but if he is, he's not there very often.
Couldn't tell you.
They lost all the talent. You know what I mean? And it's
One thing
it's not even watchable. It's not watchable.
My biggest takeaway from like ESPN and a lot of these sports shows anymore is I don't feel the sincerity. Like there's nothing genuine about it. It's all, I feel like it's scripted. They just bring up random bullshit just for argument's sake. And it's like,
no, that's fair. I mean, that's what sells.
like,
though.
like there's no way. There's no way. Did Tannenbaum really think this is a good trade idea? I mean, seriously,
maybe.
But then somebody thought that it was worth letting him say.
Yeah.
Come on. Really?
I mean, they had it at the bottom and everything. They were ready for it.
I don't want
They
to
knew it was coming.
get into too much about the world or whatever, but what's killing sports, we'll keep it this, the 24-hour news cycle and social media. They have to just say stupid stuff to try to get you to watch so they can clip it because it's the only way to stay relevant.
Yeah.
And you have to have something to talk about 24/7. It's not, you can't, it doesn't just stop at one point. They have to have stuff to talk about 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. I just hate like reactionary media anymore. Like this person has a bad game and then for the whole next week is his career over? Or he has a good game, is he an MVP? Like, can we just watch a football season? And I know like we do a weekly podcast and we talk about stuff on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, but that's why all throughout the season I was like, guys, let's relax. Let's like watch maybe the next couple games before we decide if we're good or not.
Think about Browns fans.
You know what I mean? Like,
Literally 8 weeks ago, there were still Browns fans talking about Kevin Stefanski needed to be fired. That's a real thing that we heard daily.
I still hear it,
multiple times. I believe it. I believe, which is wild to me.
I know.
it's everything is 100% go or like nothing. And it drives me nuts. And that's all ESPN is anymore. And like you got Ryan Clark going on there saying that the hardest thing I had to do all year was pretend like Brock Purdy was an MVP candidate. But there's 1,000 clips. And you weren't pretending. And then even afterwards, he'll say something like, oh, Brock Purdy showed me what he could do. And like, bro, 10 minutes ago, you said you were pretending. So what? So now, should I not believe anything you ever say? Because you were pretending because the producer in your ear told you to act like you thought he was good. So it's not even your own opinion. If I want your own opinion, I got to go watch your podcast.
Right.
So it's just like, why listen to anything any of them say?
I will say that is one thing that I really enjoy about, and this is off Browns topics and stuff. I just podcasting in general. I love that we're an independent podcast. We're beholden to nobody.
No.
We say what we want to say, what we believe. And
Until we get kicked off of YouTube.
And then it doesn't matter. You can't kick us off of Spotify. You can't kick us. I mean, we'll always be somewhere. I like it.
At your mom's house.
I moved out of there. What are you talking about?
So no, quite arguably the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
There's a reason that dude, I saw something. This is what made me chuckle when I was looking up hit some of his stats. Here we go. His time with the Miami Dolphins. After acting as consultant for the team during the he became the vice president of football operations starting February 1st, 2015. After acting as a consultant for the team during the 2014 NFL season. On December 31st, 2018, he was reassigned from his duties without a defined purpose. So his last time, like in charge of a team or whatever, they were just like, "Hey, man, can you go do something? Like, we'll keep paying you. Just go hide somewhere.
Find something to do."
Yeah, like, could you grab a broom? Like you don't get to make any decisions.
Get to the
anymore.
bottom of this for us.
Yeah. Hey, I heard somebody said something. Can you just go away? That's essentially what happened to him. And then all of a sudden he pops up on, this is a guy who's considered an expert.
Right. And that's why these shows are failing and nobody cares anymore because.
Hey, we all have the internet. It took me 5 seconds to realize that Mike Tannenbaum fucking sucks at his job.
That's fair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I can find that out very quickly. So why would I listen to this guy? Now,
Especially when this is the stuff he says.
Yes, if he wanted to talk numbers, okay, because I'm not going to do that. But to just like sit here and talk about these player personnel decisions you would make when I can just jump on Google and be like, oh, you got told to just go hang out in a broom closet at the end of your tenure. You're under 500 for your career. Okay, so maybe I shouldn't take you that serious.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, I was gonna do like my first solo outing talking about this, but I knew we were gonna talk about it on the show.
Okay.
When are you starting that, by the way? I guess, are we announcing it to everybody right now?
I don't want to make any commitments. I finally got my a new home set up. I got the recording program set up. I actually put it out in the Discord today, what they wanted me to talk about. So I'm going to hopefully start dropping some stuff. Is it weird if I call it solo content? Does that make it sound?
No, it doesn't
does that make it sound
sound bad at all.
erotic?
Blake's takes, man. Blake's takes. It's not behind a paywall yet, so just keep your socks on.
Or don't, bro.
I can't make any promises.
I kind of figured.
It'll just be like me, like pushing my fingers between my big toe and my.
Jesus.
I just broke the internet. People are gonna be lining up.
Our first 1 million view video on YouTube.
Yeah,
Look at those disgusting ass feet.
those look like the feet of a guy who doesn't walk too much, but when he does, it hurts because he's
Hurts his
heavy.
knees.
So, all right. Well, it's getting ready to go off the rails here, so we'll go ahead and wrap this thing up. I got to go home. I'm a husband and a father, and I say things like that on the internet.
Your kid's going to be able to look that up someday.
I know. Yeah, I'm like the Kim Kardashian of podcast hosts. I'm gonna have to explain to my kid one day, like, yeah, I mean,
There is a video out there of me.
I made a foot joke one day. She's like, "Oh, Dad, you're so embarrassing."
Kids will be texting it back and forth at school.
Did you guys hear her dad say back in 2024 that he was going to shove his finger between his toes on the internet?
Well, if you're still hanging out with us, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
We won't do any more episodes anymore. Sorry, guys.
It's all Blake's solo content.
Yep. We appreciate you guys being here. I forget what I was going to say. Oh, I think I was going to like talk crap about somebody, but then like they ended up being nice. So thanks for being here, Joey Nichols.
Yeah.
We appreciate the conversation, you hanging out with us. Appreciate everybody being here, hanging out with us in the off season. Leave us some voicemails. It doesn't even have to, necessarily be Browns related all the time. If you want to talk Cavs or, I know the Guardians / Indians, they came out and said, doesn't matter how much money we're going to make, we're just not going to put it into our team. So I know I'm looking forward to the baseball season. I can't wait. So we're looking for anything to talk about in the off season. People in the dog pack said we should try to open up these main episodes a little bit, kind of talk about whatever. So just leave us some voicemails. We'll get into whatever you guys want to get into as we transition into the off season. And we look forward to hanging out with you guys passing the next few months until we get closer to the draft and all that good stuff. Again, we appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see you guys next week.